What is up, everybody? Welcome to another edition of Drive for Show, DFS for Dough here on RotoGrinders. Your last golf show of the 2025 calendar year, so we'll try to make this week count. A fairly fun tournament, especially compared to the last few fall swing events we've had with some pretty bad fields. We get a little bit more excitement, a few more golfers in the mix this week that you may know about at the RSM Classic down in Georgia to close out the fall swing. So we'll see what becomes of this tournament. We'll take a quick recap back to last week at Bermuda. To help do that, you've got myself, Justin Van Zuiden, STL Cardinals 84 in the DFS world, and Mr. Notorious, Derek Farnsworth, alongside as usual. Noto, how's your week going?
Yeah, going good. Still recovering from my vasectomy last weekend, but yeah, other than that, pretty good. Yeah, but you had a good sweat in golf. Tell us more about that.
Yeah, fourth place in the DraftKings, the big GPP last week, which was quite top heavy. So it was 50K to first, 10K to second, 5K to third, 2,500 to fourth. So did finish in fourth place with, I think, a team full of guys that we kind of talked about on the show last week. Whaley and Kanaya and McGreevy I all had on that roster, who all finished tied for third. We talked about Kanaya with the low ball flight in the wind, Whaley with the 17 consecutive made cuts. You know, Rico Hoey was on that team as well. He's been playing really good golf over the past couple months himself. So Andrew Putnam, kind of the one drag on the roster, made the cut but finished T67. So he was probably the guy that prevented it from being a winner. But fourth place out of 7,000 entrants, can't complain about that. $2,500 is better than $0. Best DFS golf week in a while. So we'll take it, and we'll see if we can move that into some success this week too.
Yeah, I love it. A lot of the guys that you mentioned on the show, which is always good. And how many lineups did you throw in there?
So I had 10 last week. So getting fourth place when it's not like it was 150 lineup build, right? I had 10.
That's great.
Had 7 of them, I believe, in the money, and the one was the only one with a sweat. As far as I know, I was never in the lead. I was between like third and sixth for most of the day on Sunday, so it's not like there was one event that cost me it or anything. The winner was 10 points clear, so it wasn't like this brutal you lost at the last minute. I was just kind of hanging out in the top 10 for most of the weekend, but it was kind of brutal with the no shot tracker there for a while, wondering when holes would take a while to update and stuff. I don't like not having the shot link, but that's all right. We managed fourth place, and I kind of pulled a Noto for a while and didn't check the standings until it was over, even though I knew where I was kind of halfway through the round on Sunday. So we'll take the winnings and move on.
I didn't watch a ton of it on Sunday, but I saw Adam Schenk hit a 5-iron from like 150 out or something.
Yeah, it was very windy on Sunday, ridiculously windy, and that final group was playing at a snail's pace. I don't know what the final time of their round is, but I'm pretty sure it was over 5 hours from the time they started to the time they ended. It was just, and it was challenging, no doubt about it, but we knew that, coming into the week, that it was going to be challenging conditions out there. If you look at the course stats for round 4, so the field averaged 2.1 over par on Sunday. So, it was, it's a course that yields pretty significant scores under par when there's no wind. We knew it was going to be windy pretty much every day, and that led to a winning score of -12. Which, that doesn't happen too often on the PGA Tour these days. We see 25, 28, 30 under more than you see 12 outside. We can probably count on one hand the number of times the winning score has been -12 outside of a major in the past year or so.
Yep, they just need to get shot tracker down there, and that'll be a much better event.
Yeah, and some of the scores on Sunday, there were some +7s, +8s. Couple guys, I know Thornberry was in the final group and shot 9 over on Sunday. So one of the guys that was also in contention for that GPP had Thornberry, who was tied for the lead, and then ended up finishing 22nd. So leads to some volatile scoring in the wind, but kudos to Schenk for getting the job done, shooting even par on Sunday, which was well above field average. Mentioned Kanaya, McGreevy, and Whaley that were on my roster. Alex Smalley was also in that mix, tied for third. Zach Blair with a top 10 in windy conditions. Seamus Power, Adam Hadwin, Doug Gim, some other notable names inside the top 15, but definitely a weak field event, and not a whole lot. If you didn't have a sweat, probably not a whole lot of excitement with that leaderboard on Sunday.
Yeah, I only made one lineup last week, and it was looking like I was getting 6 of 6. My guys had like 6 holes left, and the 3 that I was sweating all missed the cut. So it was kind of a dud of a Friday. I had an outright on Whaley, but he kind of wasn't really in the mix. He was up there, but didn't really have a chance. So yeah, pretty disappointing week for me.
I know Victor Perez had to be one of the ones that you were sweating because he missed on the number.
Yep, him, Eric Cole, and Hubbard, I think, they were all within one shot with like 6 holes left, and then
Hubbard ended up missing the cut by 3 shots. Perez was on the number. Matt Wallace was on the number. I know he had some. Kevin Yu was on the number. David Lipsky was on the number. Sam Ryder was a couple off. So a lot, and Cole, who you just mentioned. There was quite a few guys that were on the fence of making the cut there, and then and didn't. And the cut almost moved another shot too there towards the end on Friday. So it was a pretty good cut sweat, especially without we're considering we didn't have the shot link data, which this week we will have for 3 of the 4 rounds. So this is one of the rare events where multiple courses are used, because you may be familiar, if you live in the States, with in a good portion of the US, it starts to get dark at like 4:30 right now. And I could go on the old man rant of hating that, but I've done that before. So don't like that
last week.
Don't like that it gets dark at 4:30. That's been established. But this tournament has a full field of 156 golfers, and to get 156 golfers through on one course with the limited daylight hours we have this time of year is pretty much impossible. So they utilize 2 courses for the first 2 rounds to split the golfers up. You play 1 day on each course, and then we move forward to the weekend after the cut. They only utilize the host course. So we will get shot link on 3 of the 4 rounds for each golfer this week. And you can talk about the course if you want, or any other thoughts on last week if you want to.
Yeah, I think last week's good for now. Let's talk the RSM Classic. So like you mentioned, 2 courses. The first one is the Seaside course. It's going to be played on 3 of the 4 rounds. It's a pretty easy course for the most part, especially when the wind is down. Wide fairways, big greens. The greens are kind of dome shaped, so they are kind of hard to hit in regulation. The big stat for me is that golfers only hit driver on 47% of tee shots here last year, which is one of the lowest marks of any course on the PGA Tour. It's like lower than Harbour Town and some of the others that we think of as less than driver courses. So I'm going to be looking at some less than driver stuff. Water's in play on 13 holes, so I don't mind looking at guys that play well on courses with a lot of water danger. And then the other course is the Plantation course. It's par 72, really short, 7,060 yards, 4 par 5s on that one. Historically, it's played a little bit easier on average, but there's been a couple years where the Seaside course has actually played a little bit easier. So I'm not sure what I want to do for Showdown. I think most people are going to naturally stack the Plantation course, but the splits haven't been, that drastic over the last few years. But yeah, you're just going to have to hit good iron shots. This is one of those courses where short game really matters more than most. The Data Golf Course Fit tool has it skewed heavily to putting and around the green and not at all to driving distance. So yeah, I'm kind of looking at total driving approach, putting around the green, and then less than driver and high water danger stuff this week.
The years where the Seaside course tends to play a little bit easier are the years where there's no wind. The Seaside course is very exposed, and the main defense is the wind, kind of like what we saw in Bermuda last week. And let me tell you, the weather forecasts this week are basically the wind is almost non-existent. Outside of, I think, maybe Saturday, there might be a chance of a little bit of wind, but especially Thursday and Friday when they're utilizing the multiple courses, there is basically no wind expected. I'll go on record. I think the Seaside course will play to the lower average this year. And your point is noted that people tend to stack the Plantation course and Showdown because they see that it's a par 72 and it's basically the same length. And, historically, if you take like a 20-year average, it has played easier. But I think I'm on record now that saying I think the Seaside course will play to a lower average this year if those weather forecasts are correct. And if that's the case, then, if you want to play Showdown the first 2 days, I think that might be a sneaky edge this year if you think that might play out.
Yeah, even if it plays like half shot more difficult, I mean, you're still, the ownership difference might make up for that. Yeah, shout out to Jeffrey Kilmer, Don Yeezy in the chat. Jeff says he loves getting dark early because he gets to go to bed by 8:30. I mean, that's kind of nice.
See, I want to do that, but then I feel, like a slacker or something. I'm not quite at the age where I want to go to bed at 8:30 and get up at 4, but we'll see. I don't want to go on that rant again. Don't tempt me to go on the rant of how it was, it was dark on my way home from work today. So I got to stop thinking about it. All right. Otherwise, agree with the metrics this week. I think using short game is fine, particularly like in my case. I think that this course is going to play easier than normal because of the weather forecast. If it turns into a shootout, obviously it's not a driver heavy course, as Noto mentioned. But despite the fact that the host course is at par 70, it can still be pretty scoreable. Like last year, the winds were up a little bit. The winning score was minus 16, but Aubert got to minus 29 a couple years ago. I believe that was the course record. It was minus 22 in 2021 when Taylor Gooch won. So we've seen 21 under before as well here. So it can get to be a birdie fest despite the fact that it's only a par 70 for the primary course. So all right, that's kind of the overview. Let's go ahead and dive into the golfers this week. It is a stronger field than we've seen in recent weeks. It's not exactly outstanding by any means, but as Noto mentioned at the end of last week's show, there are a lot of golfers that kind of call this area of the Southeast home, the Sea Island Mafia, or if you will. So you will see a lot of those golfers in the field this week, namely Harris English being the most expensive golfer. He's at the top of the pricing list at 10.5 on DraftKings. Thor Bjornsson, who we've seen a lot over the fall swing, at 10.2. Siwoo Kim was a withdrawal last week. He is in the field this week, but it always scares me when Siwoo Kim withdraws. He was also a mid-tournament withdraw at this event last year, so that makes me nervous. And then we'll group Rico Hoey into this bunch simply because he's kind of proven to be that top-tier guy over the fall swing, and he is fourth at 9,800. Again, another week where you can probably fit in one of these guys if you want to because you're not paying a huge premium. I do like the balanced build quite a bit this week, but even in a balanced build, you can still get one of these guys if you want to. Maybe English is a little more difficult to get than the others, but let's talk about this top four. How are you handling them this week?
Yeah, a couple things. Jeff said he got third in a GPP a couple weeks ago. Congrats. And Hermit Money saying Brian Harman's going to shoot the course record, which I would love to see. My guy for many, many years. But one question for you. We have like 4 of the top 8, something like that. I've only played once in the last 10 weeks. Do you think there's any rust? Do you think it's important to have played recently, or are you willing to take a chance on some of these guys that haven't played in a while?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to build a whole lineup full of them, but these guys are the better golfers in the field. Especially if they call home down here, they've probably been practicing on courses like this. So, meanwhile, some of these other guys have gone to Japan and they've gone to Mexico and they've gone to Bermuda. That's the jet lag factor could be very real with them as well. So, yeah, I think it's a plus if you're playing well, but I'm not going to just X button guys like Brian Harman and Denny McCarthy and Daniel Berger just because we haven't seen them since the playoffs. I mean, a lot of these guys are kind of used to this schedule and have played well here anyways. So I think it's a good point to bring up. Not one that's on my radar that much for being a deal breaker.
Yeah, I think if they haven't played in a while and they haven't played this course, that's kind of a deal breaker for me. But other than that, yeah, I think you're just going to miss out on a lot of big names if you do just X out everybody that hasn't played in a while. But yeah, at the very top in the 10Ks, I think English is by far my favorite of the three up here. I mean, Thorbjornsen's been playing well, did finish 8th here last year, but take the driver out of his hands a little bit here. That worries me. So I'll go with English. He's had, really good track record here. Pretty sure he's a Sea Island Mafia guy, went to Georgia. So yeah, he's my favorite play up here. What about you?
Yeah, I really don't mind playing English. I'm out on Siwoo just because that's just way too risky for me to play him off a withdraw after he withdrew here last year. Haven't really seen him a ton during the fall either, and he's the third most expensive guy. So I'm out on Kim, probably out on Thorbjornsen as well for the reasons you mentioned. So I'll play English and I'll continue to play Rico Hoey up here. I mean, we don't have the shot link splits from the last couple weeks, so we really can't define 100% how the putter's been rolling those last couple weeks, but continues to churn out top 25 finishes. Was kind of a backdoor made cut last week after a bad first round that he still ended up with a top 25, even made an 8 on a par 5 on Saturday, still ended up in a top 25 finish. So yeah, I'll continue to play Rico Hoey, 4 top 25s in a row. I know it maybe feels a little expensive given that this field strength is a little bit heavier than what we've seen in recent weeks, but I've pretty much played him ever since he made that putter switch, so it hasn't burned me a whole lot yet, outside of maybe once. So Hoey and English, I think in this range, I'm probably out on Thorbjornsen and Kim. All right, the rest of the 9Ks, you just mentioned Brian Harman, so he leads up the rest of the group there at 9.6K. JT Poston, Denny McCarthy, like 3 guys that are shorter hitters that can certainly do damage with their short game. No surprise that they are, kind of regulars on a course like this. Olesen, Berger, and Smalley rounding out the 9K. Smalley coming off another pretty good week in Bermuda, and he's had 2 top 5 finishes his last 3 starts overall. Presume you like Harman based on your comments just a bit ago. He has 4 straight made cuts at this event, as does McCarthy. Poston has made the cut the last 3 years, and Berger debuted here last year with a T2 of his own. So pretty good course history in the rest of this 9K range. What are you looking at in here?
Yeah, if you're playing the short game angle or the course history angle, Harman, Poston, McCarthy all kind of stand out as really good plays. The last time we saw Harman was on the DP World Tour 4 weeks ago, finished T26. So I'm glad he played recently. Poston T29 in his last start 6 weeks ago. I haven't seen Denny in quite a while, but I think all of them are pretty safe plays. Harman's going to be my favorite play of the bunch. And then even though Thorbjorn Olesen hasn't played here before, man, I love his form. He has top 20.
Yeah, he's been good.
T29 or better in 6 of 7, and then 4 top 15s during that stretch. If you look at his stats, I mean, he's just all across the board. So I kind of like those guys that don't have a weakness in their game. So he's probably my favorite in the 9Ks. It does look like he's going to be the most popular other than Rico. But yeah, I'm probably going to be underweight on Berger and Smalley. Just haven't seen Berger forever, and Smalley, I just never get the guy right.
Yeah, I like Harman in this range, and Harman and McCarthy, I think, are my 2 favorites, just because we know that they've got a record of being able to putt it well. If this turns into a putting contest, shootout, birdie fest, I trust McCarthy to make those putts. I mean, he's not great off the tee, but his approach game has been strong. We know the putter is one of the most reliable on tour and has been for the last couple of years now. He's kind of used to not playing many of the fall events and then playing here 10th, 5th, 25th, 3 of the last 4 years. Again, I like to sort by total strokes gained at this course, and McCarthy's in the top 5 over the last 5 years. We'll get to some more of the others later in the show, but McCarthy and English are 2 of your course history standouts of the guys we have talked about so far. Kind of agree on Smalley. Feels like a bit of an overpay based on a couple of those recent starts. So I'm probably out on him at that salary as well. He had a miscut here a year ago, but does have a top 5 in the past at this event. All right, anything else for 9K and up?
I think that's it for me. Are you playing Berger? Did you just say no?
I didn't really address him. Yeah, I mean, he didn't really finish the playoffs all that strong. And again, another guy that I don't love when you take the driver out of his hands. So I wouldn't argue against it because I think he does have some ceiling, and obviously he played well here last year. But his biggest weaknesses have been around the green and putting. So yeah, it doesn't seem like the best fit. And one good performance here might have the ownership a little high. So yeah, I'm probably out.
Yeah, I think so too.
Harman McCarthy would be my top 2 in that range for sure. Everyone else pretty far back. All right, let's move into the 8Ks. If you built roster super early, Jake Knapp withdrew on like Monday evening, so make sure you aren't putting Knapp into your lineups. Other than that, we actually do have quite a few familiar names in the 8Ks outside of Chris Kirk, another shorter hitter who quietly finished the year with back-to-back top 10s in the playoffs before taking some time off. So Kirk is at 8.9K, another guy we haven't seen in a while. But most of the others in here are guys who have been playing well throughout the fall. We talked about Whaley last week, had another top 5 finish. He's now made 18 cuts in a row in PGA Tour events. Pearson Cootie's been playing well during the fall swing. We saw Michael Brennan win a few weeks ago. We've talked at length on this show about how well Matt Kuchar's been playing over the last couple months. Keith Mitchell, Nico Echeverria. Again, these are just guys we've seen quite a bit during the fall swing. So outside of Kirk, not a whole lot of guys in the 8Ks that should be quote unquote rusty. What are your thoughts on some of your favorites in here?
Yeah, so number 1 in my model this week's Matt Kuchar. I did bump up around the green and putting, but man, his irons have been good recently. He's made 12 of his last 13 cuts. He has top 20s in 3 of his last 4 starts. He's a Sea Island guy. So I love Kuchar once again. Liked him last week quite a bit. Also like Vince Whaley. He just always comes alive this time of year. He had elite course history at Bermuda, finished 3rd last week. He has elite course history here with back-to-back top 15s. Also another guy that's very good with the short game, top 10 in the field in both putting and around the green. So those 2 are my favorites. But then if the course does play a little bit easier, it's probably going to help a guy like Nico Echevarria, who's not very good around the green, but he is a very good iron player. So he could get hot with the irons. I think Bud Cauley is a little interesting for tournaments. We haven't seen a ton of him lately, but T25 here last year, and for a long time he was known as like the best chipper of the ball on tour. So the numbers don't necessarily show that recently, but I don't know. I don't mind him at pretty low ownership.
Yeah, I put Cauley in my GPP article this week. Of course, I've always kind of been a fan ever since he, almost ended his golf career a few years ago. And the numbers are not spectacular, but pretty solid across the board. You mentioned his history of strong play around the green, and that top 25 here last year, he didn't have much form at all at the time. He's not super long off the tee. So in theory, a really good fit. And he's coming off, his most consistent season in a long time. Didn't necessarily show a ton of ceiling later in the year, but he did have 4 top 10s in kind of the springtime of 2025. He's had a little bit of time to rest. Did have a T36 at one of the fall swing starts a few weeks back, but never super chalky for DFS. Certainly that's going to be the case again this week since we haven't seen him in a while. I mean, we got him at 6% right now, so definitely love Bud Cauley in GPP formats this week. Totally agree. You can keep riding the Kuchar train if you want to. I'm done questioning that at the moment, especially on a shorter course. And then, Whaley, another guy that I think you can just play until he gives you a reason not to at this stage with how much confidence he's playing with right now. His last 4 starts have all been progressively better finishes. And, of course, coming off a tie for third place finish last week as well. Definitely out on Keith Mitchell on a course with a lot of water and not a lot of emphasis on the driver, even though he's kind of a Southeast guy. I just don't love Mitchell on this course. We both tend to get him wrong a lot, but he's missed the cut the last 2 years as well. So out on him. But Cauley, Kuchar, Whaley, I think are my top guys in here. And I like Cootie maybe a little bit better than you do, but he's been playing pretty well during the fall. We know the talent's there for him. Again, maybe a little bit of a downgrade on course fit for him, and his around the green numbers have been a little shaky. But if you want to play the momentum angle, don't mind that as well. Anything else on the 8Ks for you?
That's it for me. Don't mind the cootie call. I do like the guys that have been playing a bunch in the fall and been playing well. So I don't mind him, even though he was pretty bad here last year.
All right, let's go ahead and move into the 7Ks. As usual, lots of names here, so we'll kind of split this up. I mentioned the guys with the best strokes gain numbers at this course over the last 5 years. Kind of turned this into a little trivia thing over the last few weeks. They're not too much of a surprise. The guys that have the best numbers on this course, the top one would be Mackenzie Hughes, who is at 7,900. The last 5 years at this event, 2 missed cuts and 3 top fives. So not a whole lot of in between for him. A solo second twice and a fifth, along with 2 missed cuts the last 5 years, but second and fifth in the last 2. And then Eric Cole has 3 straight top 40 finishes as well at 7.6K, coming off another missed cut last week. Victor Perez, again, another guy that we've talked about at length on the show. We will not have to talk about him on these shows anymore. He just announced today that he is moving to the Live Tour, so Noto's model will have to be readjusted without Victor Perez in it. But of course, lots of other names in here as well. Kanaya, Digala both played pretty well last week. What are you looking at in this upper part of the 7K range?
Yeah, it'll be interesting if Perez can enter some qualifiers, making one of the majors, and then the model can be back on Victor Perez. But yeah, is he? I imagine he's not playing this week.
He did. He actually withdrew this afternoon.
Okay, good. So yeah, don't have to play him, which is kind of nice. I do like Mackenzie Hughes. I have him tagged this week. Course history is great, and another one of those guys that's just elite with the short game, elite around the green, elite putter, especially on Bermuda. So I like him. I like Eric Cole 7,600. His biggest weakness is off the tee, so I'm just hoping club down a little bit. Doesn't have to hit the driver a ton here. He's played here 3 times, 5th, 13th, and 39th, so pretty good course history there. Large field, Seamus Power. He needs some points this week to kind of secure his tour card next year, and he's had a 4th and a 5th place finish here. T11 last week. He's been playing a lot during the fall, so I'm kind of hoping he can keep it going this week. And then don't mind Matt Wallace. Very good short game. I just don't play a lot of him, but he does project pretty well for me.
Yeah, his statistical numbers kind of popped at me this week when I was looking through them. I was surprised that they were better than I thought they would be. He's kind of been hit or miss. If you look at his last 7 tournaments, he's been alternating made cuts and missed cuts, and he did miss the cut last week. So if that pattern holds, he's back on this week. I've been on Kanaya quite a bit. I don't like him quite as much as I did last week, which was primarily with the whole low ball flight stuff in the wind in Bermuda. But he's been playing well. I mean, I wouldn't fault you for playing him, but I'm probably out on Kanaya this week. Don't mind going back to Cole or Power, who you mentioned. Mac Meisner as well, another guy that really stands out statistically. When I did my mixed condition stuff on Betsperts this week, he actually came out inside the top 12, I believe. And he's made 7 cuts in a row, all of them except for one, 27th or better. So he stands out a good bit in the stats as well. Pretty solid across the board. He's probably my other favorite above 7.5K. Anything else in that range for you?
That's it for me. And then the low 7s are kind of ugly. It's usually like the sweet spot for lineups, but I don't love a lot in the low 7s.
Yeah, that upper 7 range is better this week. McGreevy is a guy I've seen get a little bit of buzz. He's been playing well. Doug Gim has quietly kind of made 5 cuts in a row. Did play a really good second round last week. I think it might have been the round of the day in the second round to make the cut. Ended up finishing T13 in tough windy conditions. So again, if you think this is going to turn into a putting contest, maybe not the best spot for Doug Gim. Eckroat's played well here in the past. Chandler Phillips is probably the guy I like the most. His game log is a little ugly to look at. It's been some bad performances in there, but he did finish tied for second last week. Tends to be pretty streaky. I believe he played well here last year as well. So those are a few guys in the lower sevens that I don't mind rounding out lineups with, but overall it is maybe not quite as strong as what we're used to seeing. Anybody you're willing to stomach in here, even though you don't like it all that much.
Yeah, I do like the Chandler Phillips call. T11 year last year, and then over the last 2 years, he's number one in the field on less than driver courses, which I thought was kind of interesting. Patrick Fishburne projects well. T8 here last year. Andrew Novak seems like it's a good course fit. We just haven't seen him for a long time. So I don't know if you trust just his skill set, then I think it's a pretty good course for him. He has played here each of the last 4 years, a couple top 35 finishes. Outside of that, I'm actually looking at a couple, maybe 3 6K guys this week.
3 6K guys. All right. Notice going to full on stars and scrubs. Adam Hadwin is also at the bottom of the 7K range, was in the mix last week before fading a bit on Sunday. I'm probably out there. Rosenmueller is a guy I've been playing quite a bit. So he starts the 6Ks. I do not like the 6Ks all that much. Obviously, Rosenmueller, because I've played him some the last 2 weeks and he's done fine, probably fits that mold. I don't hate Justin Lower, though he was pretty bad last week. But outside of that, the 6Ks are not the sweet spot for me. So enlighten me here.
Okay, Taylor Montgomery. If you like short game, he's fourth around the green and first putting.
And bad at everything else.
Dead last off the tee. But he was chalk at like 7,500, a couple weeks ago. And now he's at a course where he's 3 for 3 with 2 top 15 finishes, made the cut, T34 last week. He's got some good finishes during the fall, just, had a couple back-to-back missed cuts. So I think that's what's keeping ownership down. So I'll go back to him at 69. Putnam's always a guy that I like on these shorter courses. He has not been very good recently, but accuracy, putting around the green, he's got all of those. Then my super dart, Paul Peterson, he is 5th in accuracy. So he can hit his driver when everyone else is clubbing down off the tee. He's top 30 around the green, top 25 putting, T25 here last year, and he's made 2 of his last 3 cuts. So can I interest you in some Paul Peterson?
Let's see, where's looking up his he's golfing with Whaley, so he's gonna get Paul Peterson is with Whaley, so he's gonna get success by osmosis. That's a plus. Whaley and Norlander and Paul Peterson. Interesting group there, the first couple of rounds. Yeah, I don't hate it. Admittedly haven't looked at him super close. I'll put that on my radar to do before I finalize my lineups. Maybe it talked me into a little Montgomery. Probably put Lower, like somebody like Lower or Lipsky in my player pool, guys who missed the cut and had some ownership last week. Putnam was the other guy. Putnam is the part of the reason I didn't win 50K last week, because he shot like +7. So I don't know. I have to be spurned on Putnam this week, I think.
I'm surprised Lower has been so bad here. 0 for 4?
No, maybe I don't like him as much as I did. Yeah, he is 0 for 4. So are a lot of guys in this range. Yeah. Lots of missed cuts down here.
No, not T-Mont. 100%.
Well, yeah, outside of him. Fine, you twist my arm. We got to play somebody in here, I guess. He'll be in the player pool, I'm sure. Rosenmueller. Adam Svensson is a past winner here, but he's done absolutely nothing lately. Then lots of bad course history. The rest of this 6K range. Probably don't want to get too deep into here, but I really like the balance builds this week, like sticking with guys from say 7,500 to 9,500. You can build some pretty good looking lineups without having to dig too deep in here. All right. Anything else for the good of the show?
It's our last show for 6 weeks or something.
Yeah, last show till January. TBD, I'm not sure. I can never remember whether we do one for the Tournament of Champions or not, which usually only has 30 or 40 golfers. But if not, definitely would be for the second full week of January out for the second tournament out there in Hawaii. So we'll try to fire up the snake drafts again at some point. Hopefully, once we get some stronger fields to start the new year, we can get that rolling again. But anything else for you before we take a little break? I'm sure Producer Steve will be happy since it's basketball, football overlap season to not have to do a golf show once a week for a while. And it's busy time of the year, I know, for a lot of folks who are doing multiple sports. So
yeah, no, just thanks to everyone for watching these shows. It's a lot of fun doing them, and hopefully we help a little bit. And let's end the year on a high note.
All right. With that, echo those same sentiments. Thanks as always for watching. Hit that subscribe button on the YouTube channel. You can get notifications whenever we go live and when we're back after the first of the year. And of course, for all the other DFS sports as well. Thanks to Steve for producing, as always, for us. Thanks to Noto for joining me. I'm Justin. Have a good winter break. Enjoy the holidays, everybody. We'll catch you back here after the first of the year. Until then, good luck. Take care. We'll see y'all later.